Hello! How you guys doing? Uncle Steph here. So, today we're going to talk about the C family of languages, why they're so important, which ones you should learn, and which ones are the most important. We're going to look at some order here. It's -1 today, and we're expecting buckets of snow. I'll never make that second yellow, that second green. This one I make, but this one I never make. I'll make it this time. Holy moly. Just did it. So, the C family of languages is probably the most important family of languages. I'm going to list them out for you. I'm going to give you the order of importance. I'm going to help you understand why they are so important and why you'd probably want to learn at least one or two of them. I even have notes for today's video. So, why are the C family of languages important? What's the order of importance? What are they? So the C family of languages includes C, C++, C#, Java, and Objective-C. Now, some people will say Swift as well, Apple Swift for iOS development. Now, there's also another set of languages that apparently they're not technically rooted in C, although they share a lot of the syntactic, they're similar syntactically, meaning languages like JavaScript, TypeScript, PHP, ActionScript, they borrowed a lot of the ideas from the C languages. So what's the significance of all this? Why should you care about all this? Well, the reason you should care about the C family of languages is because they are so widely used. You see, in your software development career, even going into 2026, I'm recording this in November 2025, in your software development career, you are going to leverage several languages over that time. So in my own experience, going back 30 years, since the 90s, I have written commercial software in about 9 languages. Not all at the same time, but, for this project here, I would write with Java, and this project here I did in C#, and this project here I did with PHP, etc., and so forth and so on. Now, this may seem daunting to you, so maybe you're a noob and you're looking at it and you go, oh my God, I got to learn 8, 9 languages in my career. Is that horrible? It's horrible. Well, it's not really horrible, especially if you're working within the C family of languages. What you're going to find is as you become more experienced as a developer, as you learn more and more languages, it just gets really, really easy. So let's say the first language, to get competent in it, to understand it, takes you, it'll take you about maybe 100 hours to get your first language. So you just understand the basics. To get really good at anything, it takes a few years. So if you're starting new, like you can get a job within 6 months to a year of training, working, semi, not quite full-time, but not part-time. You can get a job. I've seen people get jobs in 3 months, but to become really efficient at anything, there's that old 10,000 hour rule. I think once you've done like 4 or 5 projects, you'll start getting good. I didn't get a really deep understanding of software development until I was in like year 4. And then year 10, I got really deep into it. So anyway, but I was making money within the first year, so don't worry about that. That said, so let's say the first language, I don't know, you start with JavaScript, right? Which has it borrows a lot of the syntax, a lot of the things like semicolons and curly braces and what are they called? The round brackets there for function arguments. They do return types, etc., and so forth. Let's say it takes you, 200-300 hours to really get good with JavaScript, to wrap your head around it anyway. It's your first language. And then later on, somebody says, hey, Johnny or Jimmy or Marie, you have to learn TypeScript because we're going to be doing React JS. We're going to be doing some React. So we want you to learn TypeScript, because TypeScript, again, it borrows from a lot of the concepts and a lot of the syntactic disposition, if you will, of the C language, the C family of language, because JavaScript as well. For you to learn TypeScript after learning JavaScript, it's going to be a fraction of the time. You might get it down in 10% of the time. And then subsequently after that, I don't know, a year later, or 6 months later, or 2 years later, you're asked to do some C#. You got to learn some C#. Again, because it's C#'s in the C family of languages, you've done the previous two, you're going to learn that in 5% of the time that it would have taken you to learn it if it was your first. So for me, in my career, as I got deeper and deeper into the game, I was contractor, freelancer, and then I did my own stuff. I would go into projects and I would assess the needs of the projects, and sometimes I would learn a new language just for that project. It wasn't a big deal. After a few years of being in the game, I could wrap my head around a new programming language inside of a day or two. So the C family of languages are very important for many reasons. Number one, they're widely used, right? You see, well, I'll just name some of these languages. You got C, C#, C++, you got JavaScript, you got TypeScript, and then Objective-C, you got Swift, and then there are languages that apparently are not in the same family in terms of lineage, as I mentioned before, but JavaScript, PHP, and there are others. You can go look it up. Actually, you know what? I have the notes. All right, so here are the notes. So I'm going to name the C family of languages here and their level of importance, ranked by importance and usage in 2025. So number one, apparently is C. It's used in embedded systems, compilers, databases. It's a critical language because of speed. Number two, C++, dominant in game engines, the Unreal Engine, high-performance apps, finance, trading system, large legacy code bases. It's widely used. That's why a lot of C++ jobs still. Java, the third, still huge in enterprise software, banking, Android backend systems, Spring Boot, and big corporations. It's everywhere. It's quite popular. Again, in the enterprise. So if you're going to get into Java, it's because you want to go work at very large organizations. Number four, C#, Microsoft ecosystem, .NET, Unity, game development, enterprise apps, backend services, Azure. Still very actively used and supported. Here's one that surprised me. Golang. So it's modern systems, backend workhorse, cloud infrastructure, Docker, Kubernetes, microservices, simple, fast growing. Next one, Objective-C. It's still apparently used. Objective-C declining, but still used in legacy iOS and macOS apps and Apple system frameworks. Swift is replacing it, but it's not gone. So again, Objective-C would not be my top choice personally, but Swift, the main language for iOS, macOS development, growing, safe, modern, but mostly confined to Apple platform. So if you're doing Swift, you're on Apple, right? But Apple's not going anywhere, that's for sure. And there are others, but those are the top, according to my research here, those are the top language in terms of ranked and importance and usage. So let's go down to jobs. So here's another index from GitHub repos, job market relevance, Tyobe. So they rank, number one is C, number two is C++, number three is Java, number four is C#, number five is Go, number six is Swift, number seven is Objective. This is within the C family of languages. So Python's not in the C family of languages. I'm not including it in there, but don't poo-poo Python. Python is still very popular. Anyway, let's go back and look at these languages in terms of job demand. C family languages ranked by job demand purely. Java is number one, C#, .NET number two, C++ number three, C number four, Golang 5, Swift 6, Objective-C. So the reasoning behind the order of these languages is Java and C# dominate the corporate enterprise job market, banks, healthcare systems, government, internal software, big companies, as I've been saying for years. If you're going to do C# or Java, you got to think large corporations. If you want to do freelance, small business, It's all about JavaScript. It's all about PHP. It's all about Python for small business. But anyway, for big business, Java, C#. C++ and C are very important, but more specialized. Fewer roles, but higher pay and higher difficulty. Yeah, to write C++ and C code is much more difficult to get off the ground and running than it is to write Java, C#, JavaScript, Swift. When people tell me that they want to learn C++ first as their first language because it's the basic foundational language, everything is made up from it, that's silly. Silly. That's like saying, you know what? I want to learn to be a fighter, so I'm going to jump in the ring with Mike Tyson. That's going to be my first fight. That would be bad. You want to get in there with something easy. Let's talk about pay. Pay versus demand. So Java 105, average salary in the US in 2025. Java 105 to 140, C# 100 to 130, C++ 120, 160, C 115 to 150, Go 120 to 150, Swift 100 to 140, Objective-C 95 to 130. They're all in the same range. Never pick a programming language based on the salaries that are listed, because really your salary is going to be very much dependent not on the language you use, but how well you use the languages. So the question I actually put to AI, here's another one. So if you're asking which C family languages give the most job opportunities, top three by jobs, Java is number 1, C# is number 2, and C++ is number 3. There you go. Why isn't JavaScript or Kotlin in the list of the official family of the C languages? And according to GPT, because even though they use C-like syntax, which by the way makes learning them much easier, they are not actually part of the C family lineage. They're syntactic cousins, but not descendants. So if you're getting technical, JavaScript and Kotlin are not descended from C, but they borrow a lot of ideas. They borrow a lot of syntax from C. So if you would say new C#, for you to go learn Kotlin would be pretty easy. If you knew Java and you decide to go learn Kotlin, which makes sense because of Android development, it wouldn't be too difficult because, again, first of all, they share a similar syntax. Syntax is just a fancy word for the actual code that you write. And, well, at least with Kotlin, the most important thing is that you're interacting with the JVM in Kotlin. So let's talk about some languages that are not part of the C family of languages. Python. So if you know Python and you've looked at JavaScript or any of the C family of languages, there's a big difference in terms of the actual syntax. Like, for example, Python uses indentations instead of braces to denote or delineate, to segment up their code. I actually prefer curly braces and semicolons personally. Ruby is another language that is inspired from Smalltalk and Lisp. It is not part of the C style of languages. Doesn't look like it. Haskell, Lisp, Erlang, functional or declarative, roots unrelated to C. Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, pre-C era, no syntactic relationship whatsoever. So there you go. So Python is probably the most popular non-C language. So we have an extended C style family of languages. They're syntactically inspired by C, but not direct descendants. So they look like C, but they aren't true members of by ancestry. But you know what? Again, because they look like C, because they're inspired by C, if you knew a language from one of the C style of languages, these languages will become easier. JavaScript, C style syntax, I've mentioned it before, braces, operators, semicolons. TypeScript, superset of JavaScript, syntax still rooted in C tradition. Kotlin, built on the JVM, so that's huge. C style syntax, Rust system level, C-like syntax borrows concepts from C, C++. Perl PHP uses C style operators and blocks, but different heritage. And they got this language D, which I never heard of in this list, so I'm not going to talk about it. So let me conclude this video by summarizing and answering the big question. So why are they important? Well, because they're so widely used. C, C++, C Sharp, Java, and then you got the languages that copy it. You got the TypeScript and the JavaScript and Kotlin. So between the direct descendants of the C in the C family and the C family clones, if you will, or copiers, it's so widely used. So once you've learned one C language, to learn the other ones will become much, much easier because they're so similar. I've given you the order of importance in terms of jobs and usage. Again, I've talked about this many times. If you're in the industry, it's pretty known that C Sharp and Java and C++ are hugely popular. I think the big thing to take away, is that the salaries that you make, even though when you do statistical research, you see some slight variations, 10,000 here, minus 10,000 there so far. But I wouldn't base your technology choices based on salaries, because at the end of the day, it's much more about how much you know about software development as opposed to which language you're using. That's much more important. The other big thing about the languages is you have to understand the workplace. So if you do Java, C Sharp, you're working for big companies. If you want to work for small, nimbler companies, you're looking at PHP, you're looking at JavaScript, you're looking at Python to a certain extent. So keep that in mind. So when you're choosing the job opportunities, the workplace is more important than the tech. Because once you get into software development, I'm telling you, the languages are just tools, and it becomes a push. It becomes like, yeah, I'm writing C Sharp. You may have a preference for C Sharp over, say, Java. You may have a preference of TypeScript over JavaScript, for example, just personal preference. But when you're actually sitting there writing code, building systems, like the big part about being a software developer it's not coding. It's everything else around the coding that's very important. So in my own training programs that I provide, I teach languages based on use case or usage in the marketplace. So I teach JavaScript, I teach PHP, and I teach Python. Although Python is the odd man out, Python is not part of that C family of languages, whereas PHP, JavaScript, well, they borrow a lot from C, even though technically they're not. I teach those three languages because they open up a wide range of job opportunities, and they train you in a wide range of concepts and technique that are applicable across the spectrum. For those starting out, if I were to choose a first language, you want to choose one of the easier ones. Like I would choose as a first language in the C family, my top choice would be JavaScript, I think, because it's just a lot less for you to have to manage. My first choice would be JavaScript as the first language to learn. The second choice would probably be C, believe it or not. So you do basic device driver stuff. On the flip side, the last languages I would have you learn in the C family would be C++, because of the tremendous complexity in that language. And don't confuse complexity with being great. Complexity has its purposes, but it's not necessarily great. Trust me. Yeah, so I would say C++ is the last language I would learn, especially if you're noob. You're going to be presented with all kinds of concepts and difficulties and complexities in that language that you don't want to have to deal with when you're a noob. Much better off with JavaScript. You're much better off with PHP even, So that's it. So if you're starting off new, you want to get into C's family of languages. Even though JavaScript is technically not C, it looks a lot like C. It feels like, it looks a lot like C syntactically. So from the perspective of a noob, it will be easier to get into that. So there you go. JavaScript is my top in the C-style family of languages, with C under that. And at the other end of the spectrum, C++ would be the least. Why not C Sharp and Java? Because they're powerful languages. but they are strongly typed. It's meaning you have to write a lot more code to get things done, and you got to write that code properly. So it could be frustrating when you're first starting out in the software development game. If you circle out in terms of the top languages, in terms of beginner to learn, it would either be JavaScript or Python for a bunch of reasons. Ease of use. Again, you want to make that first language that you learn the easiest as possible, because it's like fighting. When you want to learn how to fight, you don't put the guy in there. You don't put you don't go jump in the ring with Mike Tyson. You want to get in there with an easy opponent. So you learn the game slowly, and you build yourself up. You build yourself up. Same thing with programming. You don't want to start off with some crazy difficult language like C++. Or not as difficult, but still challenging, Java or C#. You start with something easy like a JavaScript or non-C Python, or even Ruby. I hope you found this video useful. I am Uncle Steph. I train people in software development, freelancing, a bunch of other things as well. So you can check out the links below if you want to check out my mentoring program. It is now being offered at the best price I've ever offered it at. It's you can do the self-paced interactive learning. It's a unique program I developed from scratch on my own platform, which is being used by schools all over North America. Or you could do the full mentoring program with the bi-weekly live coaching sessions, etc. and so forth. So there's different levels depending on your learning level. Question I get often is from a total noob: how long will it take before I could start doing simple jobs in software development? 250 hours, you can start doing very simple things. And actually, I recommend that. How does AI impact software development? Is this a new tool set to leverage? I think it's great, personally. I think the AI age opens up the biggest opportunity for developers since the web came about. It is massive. And so in my program, I have a whole module just on AI and software development, how to look at AI, how to position it, how to use it to get ahead. Big opportunities with AI. So don't listen to the people who are fearful of AI. It's actually a huge opportunity. People who embrace AI now are like the people who embrace web development back in the early 90s when it first came out. The old school developers at the time, the thick client developers, VB6, C++ guys, they were, web. But I'm telling you, it's a huge opportunity. Oh, no. The snow begins. No. Oh, well. That's it for Montreal Winter Wonderland. Montreal is a fantastic city in the summertime and maybe early fall. Other than that, it's a disastrous winter wonderland. So unless you're into skiing and polar bears, it sucks. Anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, any comments about this video, any of the subjects we discussed here, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer. That's it. I'm Uncle Steph.